The greatest failure turned into salvation. Rudolf Vrba and Alfred Wetzler were responsible for the archives at Auschwitz. Documentation was kept with utmost precision. The Germans, known for their pedantry, allowed the two Jews to be well informed about everything that was happening there. Consequently, they had long contemplated escaping to reveal the terrible truth to the world. An incident hastened their decision. Once, the two friends overheard a conversation between German soldiers. "You know," one said to the other, "a new batch of Hungarian salami is due to arrive soon." That's how they referred to Jews from Hungary. Hearing about the impending suffering of Hungarian Jews, Vrba and Wetzler firmly decided to execute their escape plan as soon as possible. But how? The camp territory was divided into two parts. The inner camp was surrounded by a wall and guarded by armed soldiers with German shepherds. Everything happening in the camp was also monitored from watchtowers. In this part of the camp, the prisoners ate and slept. Then there was a subcamp outside the wall, where various work, including the construction of new barracks, took place. This part was also surrounded, and it was impossible to escape during the day. However, there was no guard at night, which meant they needed to find a place to wait it out. But for how long? The problem was that the Germans always counted and recounted the number of Jews returning to the inner camp. If someone was missing, they would sound the alarm, halt work, and search for the missing person for 3 days. Therefore, they needed to hide somewhere for 3 days. Vrba and Wetzler decided to conceal themselves among the logs used for building barracks. They asked the Jews, who were piling up the logs, to leave them a niche inside these piles. And there they spent 3 days. To prevent the German shepherds from sniffing them out, the escapees soaked tobacco in gasoline and smeared this mixture all around. They knew that such a mixture would impair the dog's sense of smell. And now, at the end of the 3rd day, as the time to leave their hiding place approached, they heard the voices of 2 soldiers nearby. Where could they have disappeared to? Wondered one. Maybe they are hiding in the log piles, suggested the other soldier. But the dogs didn't smell them. They might have had some kind of substance. Let's check. And the Germans began to unload the logs, one row after another. Only a few rows of logs separated them from the German soldiers. What frustration! Salvation seemed so close, and yet, Vrba and Wetzler understood that they had only minutes to live. Only one row remained. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. "They've been found," said one of the soldiers, and they immediately abandoned their task and ran away. 10 minutes passed and the soldiers did not return. Half an hour went by with no sign of them, and even after an hour, the soldiers did not come back. That's when Vrba and Wetzler realized they could emerge. This was their chance. They tried to remove the second row of beams, but they were so weakened by 3 days of hunger that they couldn't do it. They tried again and again, but in vain. Could it really be that nothing would work? Were they doomed to die there? Suddenly, they noticed a gap. There. Just a bit more effort to make the hole slightly larger and escape. Vrba and Wetzler fled. After their escape, they wrote a famous 32-page report containing information about the scale of Jewish extermination, as well as diagrams of the Auschwitz concentration camp. This report became the first publication about the Holocaust to gain widespread international recognition in the countries of the anti-Hitler coalition and neutral countries. Now, consider this. What if the soldiers had not started unloading the logs in search of the escapees? It was a challenge to get through one row of beams, but what if there had been 7? It turns out that what seemed like the biggest failure in their lives turned out to be the greatest victory and path to salvation for the escapees. Similarly, in our everyday lives, many events often seem utterly hopeless. We expect nothing good from them. We see no light at the end of the tunnel. There's nowhere to expect hope from. But everything can turn into universal joy. The greatest failure can become the path to salvation.